What's up, everyone? I'm Jackie,
And I'm Lindsay,
and we are Women Leaders in Sports Medicine.
here to help you grow your game and own your game.
From an inspiring college athlete career to now instilling lifelong empowerment in athletes in the Pac-12, strength and conditioning coach Darien Pyka takes us on her journey to the University of Southern California. We touch on lessons she's learned along the way, such as how to build the foundation of gaining athletes' trust, the importance of educating others and yourself, and finding gratitude throughout the journey. As always, visit us at www.womenleadersinsportsmedicine.com for more opportunities and information. Thanks for joining us, and we hope you enjoy listening in.
Awesome. Well, hi, Darien. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So before we get started, I know we were discussing a little bit before we started recording how this is kind of an odd time for everyone. What has this time off been like for you?
Definitely challenging. Um, and I think like everybody's like, "Oh, we're so bored." And I'm like, "I'm not bored. I got 6 teams, and I have team meetings, and I have meetings with my athletes. So I think I did a pretty good job. I would like to say with my athletes in the beginning that I built a really good relationship. So I'm seeing that right now that a lot of them are reaching out for help and reaching out for advice, reaching out just to connect. And that makes me feel good, but also I'm like, crap, I got like 100 athletes that are all reaching out to me, texting, I have Zoom calls with some of them. And I'm like, dang, I'm actually really busy. And like talking to my other coaches, and they're like, oh, let's connect. Let's all have all these Zoom calls. I'm like, God, I don't have time. Like, I'm kind of busy. But it's been rewarding, I guess, to see some of my athletes putting together some training programs that mimic what I've taught them. So although it's challenging to try to get them to be motivated, disciplined, because I'm not there coaching them, I've gotten to see what they come up with and what they actually remember from training. And that's a good telltale of like if I'm doing my job and I'm actually educating or I'm just putting them through emotions. So
Yeah,
challenging,
that's
but rewarding at the same time.
yeah, that's amazing. Just to clarify too, the NCAA isn't allowing you guys to train them via Zoom or via any other online platforms right now.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can't do anything.
yeah, makes sense. Safety of the athlete. You're just looking
Hmm.
out for the best. But yeah, well, I'm glad you're taking this as a great opportunity to one, help your athletes, and two, grow. It sounds like that's awesome. It's a good way
Yeah.
to look at
Already hitting on like a really key point, just like already getting after it. But like just like, part of our roles as clinicians or strength and conditioning coaches is obviously to, train them and get them strong, get them powerful, get them in season. But also that role as an educator is huge. And I think, like you'd mentioned, this kind of time is really showing us if our patients or students or athletes or whatever it may be are really paying attention. So it's been super rewarding, I think, for a lot of us on all fronts. And I think a lot of us in healthcare are not busy or very busy right now, which has been very good during this time.
Yeah. And so I literally talked to my swimmers yesterday, and I've preached this a lot because it's something that I challenge with being no longer a athlete or collegiate athlete. That whether we like it or not, your sport's going to end. And how is that transition going to be out of it? You're still going to train, you're still going to work out. Like, can you be self motivated, and can you take the tools that I've taught you? Because yeah, exactly. I want to be an educator. I want to teach them these principles so that they can carry that into their life and after. Because like we play our sports for maybe like till 21, 22. Most of us in college who end after college, and then what? We're not only done with 1/4 of our life. So a lot of life to live, and so I want to help them beyond.
So, to get started, we start our podcast with a similar question for everyone. But can you give us a little bit of background on your story and your why of getting into the strength and conditioning field?
Yeah. So athlete all my life, which most strength and conditioning coaches and anybody in this field is and was. But I went to college at Loyola Marymount University. I played soccer there, and I was a walk on. So I was kind of coming in lowest in totem pole, and I really fell in love with strength conditioning. And my strength coach was a great mentor and taught me how to get bigger, faster, stronger. And it was kind of a Cinderella story of that. I started off low, and then I ended up senior year full ride captain of my team. So I was really proud of that journey, and saw what strength and conditioning did for me, and was like, I want to do this for others. I want to help others. That although sports isn't everything in life, it teaches you great lessons, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. So I want to make sure that you know whatever I'm doing to help an athlete, I want to help them be successful in that time of life and for beyond. You know, so that's really why my why is I'm a big lover. I love people. I love athletes, and if they're trusting me to help them, then I want to give them my best and do everything I can for them to help them with their goals.
That's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think we often find we end up, we get into our careers and we're like, oh, we're learning all the science and, the book stuff. And then you start actually working in it, and the meat of it and the beauty of what we do is in that interaction with our athletes or the people we're working with. So I think, that shift of you finding of having the mentor to basically turning into the mentor is a really beautiful thing. After that, you went and worked in pro sport, physical therapy clinic. And which one did you work in Orange County, right?
Yes. So the Laguna Hills, and it was a weird transition. So
okay. Tell us about that.
I'll just go ahead and say that after LMU, so I interned at LMU once soccer's a fall sport. So in my spring semester at LMU, I got to intern at LMU with my mentor. And then I went on and did a USC internship.
Oh, okay.
So that's kind of how I got involved with USC. And honestly, one of the worst experiences of my life.
You came right back to it.
I know. It was so tough and difficult, but I'm very blessed for it because I had a great mentor there that just taught me kind of the foundation of my knowledge of strength conditioning. And then I went to intern at Velocity down in Irvine.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I interned there for the NFL Combine. I ended up getting a job there. And then Joe Donahue from Pro Sport bought us out. So that was like the start of Joe Donahue wanted to make a sports performance and a physical therapy place. So it was originally called Pro Sport and then Stack, which Velocity got bought out by Stack. So it was Pro Sport Stack. And then that was a huge transition. We got rid of Stack. So I worked in the new one, the Laguna Hills. So I ended up working there, worked there as a coach for a while, and then a lot of turnover, a lot of transitions. And I became the director only for a few months before I got the USC job.
Oh, okay. So it was like kind of a flurry of shifting and changing. Did you come out with anything from that experience as far as learning, how to navigate conversations between different people, because now you're entering a realm of more interdisciplinary care, or any new challenges that you saw just in that spot?
Yeah, it was, especially as I started to learn more and talk more to the physical therapist there, because at the beginning it was separate. We don't talk to you, you don't talk to us, because I don't know you, and there's just so much change going on that in the beginning, not so much, there wasn't too much conversation, but as the time I became director, we started to communicate more and having more lines of, hey, they got healthy with you, come to us, because we were in Laguna Hills, we're positioned right next to a CrossFit gym. And I don't know you guys' opinion of CrossFit, and it doesn't really matter. The numbers say that we got a lot of people coming over from that CrossFit facility with injuries. And our physical therapist would talk about it all the time. It was pretty funny. And then some of them would transition to train with us. So that was pretty cool that line started to happen. And then if somebody got injured with us, then we can go ahead and talk to our physical therapist, like, hey, can you help us out? And so there's more of a interaction as time got on. But I think the most thing I learned is you need to have similar nomenclature within a facility. And I'm definitely dealing with that at SC, that we all need to be on the same page, same nomenclature. But the saying, stay in your own lane, is very important. And I know it can be harsh to some people, but in those realms, when you're working with a bunch of different types of professionals, you need to stay in your own lane and respect that we're all on the same team here. We all want to get this athlete better, this athlete healthy, or this client healthy, and do your part and do your role versus trying to step on other people's roles. So that was a big learning lesson, and I'm seeing that come up at USC as well. That in a ego-driven environment, like, we all just need to back down. We have our roles, and we have what we're good at, and stick to that.
I mean, there's a reason why there's, you know, 5,000 different specialties and degrees and things like that. Like, my education in physical therapy is not education in strength and conditioning. So, if I'm ready for my athlete to return to performance, they're better, they're good. I need to trust my strength and conditioning specialists, or, like, it's not my job to educate about nutrition or sports psychology or whatever it may be. You have much more knowledge in that arena than I would have. So I think that's kind of a key factor in just like your athlete's care. And I think trying to, like, not stay in your lane, or let your ego kind of take control of the situation really ends up doing your athlete a disservice.
Yes.
So I think that's a huge thing that I think a lot of people still navigate, especially when you're coming in with these mergers and meeting all new people, that, there's always that layer of, like, trust between the two as well. So that sounds like you were able to kind of come in and, like, create that trust when you became director. So that's awesome.
Yeah, line of communication, and also just a line of who to report to. It's very important because you have one person directly reporting to another person, but then it can just get an interweb, and it's super confusing. So it's like, hey, if something happens, you report to me. I will report to the physical therapist, yada, yada, yada. Because then information gets lost, and, once again, disservice to that client, to that athlete. So
Comes down to communication and who you're communicating with and how, and like you said, making sure you're all using the same nomenclature. I know that's a big thing. In Mike Boyle's gym, that the gym I work at now tries to replicate, because if I'm talking to a strength coach and I'm using one name for an exercise and he's using another, it can not end well for the athlete, which I'm sure you've probably experienced. But so now at USC, can you tell us a little bit about the teams you work with and your experience there so far?
yeah, I work with men's and women's swimming, which at other universities they're kind of split, but I have the men's and women's at the same time. Um, so swimming, I have the diving team, I have women's tennis, and men's and women's golf. So kind of a array of just random teams. Um, and the experience has been great so far. I coming out of um, the private sector, I didn't think I'd want to take this job.
hmm
But after talking to the head strength coach over there, which was head of Olympic and football at the time, he was like, hey, this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, probably. Like, you just never know. You can always go back to the private sector, which is what I tell people when they ask me, like, what's the difference? What do you like more? I'm like, you can always go out. You're not married to one thing. You can try different things. And so far, I love it. Like, I love team setting. And private sector was great in the sense that I got to deal with kids and adults. So I had a bigger spectrum. But right now, I think it's very beneficial to develop these kids in college. And I can relate to them. I know what it's like. Not what it's like to be a USC athlete, but definitely what a college athlete is like, and that pressure and just overwhelming of everything. Um, so definitely enjoyed my time. Love my teams. Sports, like, I'm a soccer player, so I'm very land based. So that's been a struggle navigating with my swimmers. And I think, as strength coaches, we can train any athlete. We know how to make an athlete better. We know what they need. We know the movements that they need to get better in the pool. But where it becomes a little different is that the athletes know that I don't swim and that I've never swum. I don't like the pool, to be honest. I'm a big runner. I don't want to be in their pool. But when I got the job, I tried out the different strokes. I gave it a shot. I just don't enjoy it. And so I think they look at that as that, I don't know what their life is like, and I don't know what it's like to be a swimmer. And you're right. I don't. But I know what it's like to be an athlete. I can help you. And, definitely looked at my resources. And I know one of your questions was what resources that I've looked at and fall back on is really the head coaches. I feel like I have a good relationship with most of the coaches. It's definitely been difficult with some of them. But having an open conversation with, hey, what do you think they need? And sometimes you get very kind of responses that you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that. But kindly tell them that why that won't work. But just getting ideas of, hey, what movements do you think are important? What muscles do you think are important? What energy system do you think is important? And then how can I supplement with your training? Because if they're getting killed in the pool, well, I can't kill them in the weight room. So that's also been a big learning lesson is like, you got to look at strength and conditioning as very important, but also it's supplement to their sport. The athletes come to the university to play their sport, and they didn't come to be a weightlifter. And so getting that buy-in, getting that trust, and knowing that you're there to make them successful in any way that you can.
Yeah, I think the one thing I love that you said is that like you're trying the movements that these athletes do, even though you may not love doing them. I think I'm such a big proponent for that because it's impossible for you to 100% identify with every single sport, especially if you're a land-based sport. Like there's no way I'm going to know how you're moving or what you're doing in the pool. But I think that adds a layer of rapport and respect from your athlete. They're like knowing that you're a soccer player and they're like, wait, you went in the pool and went and tried to do a butterfly stroke. I'd love to see that. It like adds for a little layer of banter, but also showing that athlete that you are really working to try to understand them as much as possible. I think like adds another layer of buy-in. Can you speak to like maybe some of the ways that you try to get buy-in for your athletes as far as like those ones that maybe, I've never been a swimmer, but I'm trying to get you better for swimming or golfing or whatever it may be?
Yeah. Golf was tough too because I can't not golf. But I think it's the level of commitment that I give the team and give each athlete that has helped with that buy-in, because I come out, I'm very honest, like, yeah, I don't swim. I tried it. They saw me try it. Yes, I got banter, I got laughed at, but there was a lot of like, wow, she actually cares and she's actually trying this. And I pull resources that I've learned from, but also I'm big on going to practices. Like I want to see what their practices are like. I go once a week to a swimming, to a diving, to golf as best I can because they're always on the course.
Yeah.
And then to tennis. Like I go out there and I'm like, hey, I'm not only concerned about what you're doing in the weight room, but I'm concerned with what you're doing in practice. So even though swimming practices and even the athletes will come and be like, I can't believe you watched that. They're brutal to watch. You're just watching somebody go back and forth.
They are.
But I'm there to show that I'm truly interested of how the coaches talk to them within the pool. And it's been a great learning lesson because the way that the swim coaches talk to the swimmers within the pool, they'll give them like a paragraph of instructions. Like, we're going to do 50 at this gear, we'll go 5 times, we're going to leave at the top of the mark, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you guys remember all that? And they're like, yeah, it's easy. I'm like, then what are you doing in the weight room that you can't remember all this? But
exposed.
yeah, like that, they have to remember a lot. But I always come out to the pool deck and they always like, everybody says hi. Like they're so much more friendlier to me when they're doing what they love. And I make sure to acknowledge that. I'm like, I know you're not here to be in the weight room, to lift weights, but I guarantee it will help you in your sport, and go out there and I watch. And it's really rewarding when I have especially an untrained freshman who's never touched weights. And then also I get them stronger. And they're like, wow, I feel so much stronger off the wall, off the blocks. This is so cool. And just seeing that level of excitement is why I do what I do, you know?
Well, kind of to tie it back to what you were discussing in the beginning too, how you have so many athletes reaching out to you right now, even if it's just to connect or to help educate them, goes to show how those little things, such as going to practice and paying attention to detail, have made such a big difference,
Yeah.
not only in their training, but in their lives. Again, you built that foundation for trust and took the action steps necessary to show that you care.
Hmm.
And it, again, makes sense why they buy in
Yeah. Yeah.
to where you are now.
Yeah, because people will try to ask me, like, how do you define success? Like, I know that's a very common question. And of course, my job is to win national championships. Like, I'm at
Hmm.
SC. We want to win. And granted, yeah, I want to win too. Like, don't like losing. Um, and it's even harder being a bystander because you have nothing, it's out of your control completely. Um, but also I measure my success after how many how many athletes when they're done at SC still contact me, still
Hmm.
check in, or if I check in with them, like Instagram makes it super easy because I can be friends with them, I can be friends on Facebook. How many of them do they reach out and act like, hey, like, saw this, thought of you, saw this article, like, thanks for everything. So that's how I measure success. And like, if you're done here, like, do you still talk to me? When you come visit campus, do you still want to come see me? And so far, so good. So
Yeah.
that's the stuff that I get excited about. Is not only do we have the memories of the wins and the losses and the lessons learned in the weight room, but also like, can I see you as an adult? Like, what are you doing now? Like, how's your transition? Um, so
Yeah. Talk about making an impact. It's the way to do it. It's the way to look at it.
mhm.
So,
Oop.
moving into, we talked a little bit, like a tiny bit about adaptability. Maybe for some, individuals who are starting to get into, these fields where we're like having to shift gears. Do you have any advice to individuals on how to be adaptable between, each sport? Because you're clearly training very different sports.
Mhm.
What sort of resources or mentors or whatever it may be that you use to do that?
Yeah, I'm a big article person, so journals. So while I was doing those internships at Velocity and then Pro Sport and then getting the job at Pro Sport, I was doing my master's at Cal State Fullerton. So I love the lab, and I love research, and I love looking at research, and journals, strength and conditioning research is great. Um, so I would just tell any coach that has a lot of different teams, it's like, hey, what's your number one goal? You're training the athlete. We know how to make an athlete better, but make sure that, like I said, asking the head coach of what's important, having candid conversations about what they think that I can do to make them better, and you have to just navigate their answers because some of it won't be realistic. One of my my swim
Mhm.
coach was like, "Hey, I want kettlebell swings underwater." I'm like, "I'm not doing that. That doesn't make any sense." So you have to navigate that, and I think coming in, especially you're new, you want to build trust with with the head coach. Like, you have to take them with a grain of salt. Like, be very supportive of what they want, implement it, and then by the time that you gain trust, start changing it to what you think and educating him or her on the head coach of what would be better based on your professional opinion. Um, but so resources, definitely sport coach, journal articles. I have a lot of my mentors that I reach out to and asking them, hey, like, I'm dealing with this. What do you think about, implementing this with this team? But also the athletes. And I think that's very uh, underestimated. They play their sport. Granted, they're not educated in what I do, but I can kind of filter out what I need from our conversation. So I coming in was hard. I really looked to the captains, But as I got to know the team, I looked to not only the captains, but people who worked hard for me in the weight room. Um, and like when it came time for tapering for swimming, like, hey, how you feeling? Like, and that's where that buying that trust is so essential and vital, because they can truly tell you what's going on. But you got to be selective with who you pick, because nowadays with some of these athletes, you can get something that is total BS, and you're like, oh, I'm really sore from this. I'm like, we didn't even do anything that would make that area sore. So like, what are you telling me here? So gotta be careful with that.
For sure. Um, I think those are all really good. That's really good advice to someone who may be in the field struggling right now or looking to get in the field, which is great. So, through all of these experiences, everything you've been going through at USC, everything you went through at Pro Sport, going through your master's, working your way up to a full ride scholarship position at the collegiate level. If you look at that entire journey, what were some challenges or maybe opportunities, we could call it that you faced in the sports realm? Whether it be, I know we touched on adaptability, but maybe pressure of getting the athlete back on track, or any gender biases or anything along those lines.
Yeah. That's a really good question, because I know gender biases gets brought up a lot with uh, female strength coaches and females in the realm, and clearly talked about the COVID versus coaches versus COVID. And it's only a challenge if we look at it like a challenge or an obstacle, So young female strength coaches who call me like, oh, what's it like being a female? Like, what challenges are we going to face? And I'm like, I want people to stop saying female strength coach and just say strength coach. Like, if we keep making it a problem, then it is going to be a problem. And I think we're getting better at better. And I think more the issue is with the workplace environment. And when you're at in an environment with football strength coaches, and it varies, of course, between universities, but through my experiences, it's pretty tough to navigate. They're very different from us. They talk different, and you just have to educate them, because if you don't say anything with like, hey, can you stop saying these words with my female athletes? Like, can you stop acting like that with my female athletes or around my female athletes? Like, if you don't have a conversation, then they don't know and they can't learn. And we're just being passive. Like, we can't be passive. We gotta stand up for ourselves, So and I think going on with the challenges is being a walk on was definitely a challenge, and that really taught me about hard work. But one thing that I did learn is that hard work doesn't always equal like playing time. So that was a lesson too.
Yeah.
If you're in this field and you're studying, you're the smartest person. That doesn't always translate to you're gonna have the best job. You're gonna have your athletes always trust you and everything's going to go perfect. So I think being an adaptable athlete is very important, being adaptable in your situations and always looking at the positive. And I think that's one thing that I've really developed as a coach over the last few years is there's always positivity. Like, I have a job right now. I'm still getting paid. That's positivity. And I've taught my athletes this too, because being an athlete in college, like it was struggle. It was a struggle for sure. Soccer became my job, but I didn't look at that as an opportunity to build relationships and enjoy my life and enjoy college. So if I had to do it all over again, I think I would try to learn that lesson earlier if I could, and just enjoy life a little bit more. So getting my athletes to really understand that, be grateful for what you have. And I think this opportunity right now of that stuff being taken away from us, and my spring sports, they got rightfully so, but yeah, we're not playing. So what were you doing at 6 a.m. in the fall? Were you pissed off that you were there, or can you look at this situation now to be more thankful for what you had? Being a USC athlete, getting training, getting nutrition advice, getting psychology advice. So looking at those as opportunities to grow versus, man, I can't believe I'm here. I'm upset to be here. Kind of lost track of the question there, but
No. I don't
That's a
think you
good
did at
point,
all.
though.
Yeah, I think you touched on a lot of different things, and I hope our viewers and listeners go back and, if not listen to the whole thing, listen to that 3-minute segment, because the big theme of that I feel like you touched on is your perspective and changing the narrative. If we're talking like big things, and one, perspective right now is everything. Personally, I think you touched on that a little bit too. And two, changing the narrative of, one, the situation someone might be in right now, where they are in their journey, and trying to be grateful and enjoy their journey, but also the narrative of just females in the field. At the end of the day, we're all people, whether you're male, whether you're female. So I think that was great.
Thank you. Good.
Yeah, I think that's like one of the reasons we wanted to kind of start this podcast and start this network is, I think a lot of young women trying to get into this sport like don't know how to go about like finding their voice. At least like, for me taking students and trying to work with like a younger crowd as far as like individuals getting into any sort of area in sports medicine, I think there's always like they don't know how to like just speak up, right? And like have those hard conversations with like, why are you talking to my female athlete like that? Or like, kind of those things that you were mentioning on, with just, looking at people that are either higher up than them, and that's a factor that they're nervous to like chat about, or if there is that kind of like male female dynamic, which there honestly shouldn't be. And I love that you made that comment about like, why should we say female strength and conditioning coaches? It doesn't matter. Like everyone has the same knowledge. Everyone has the same, love for the athlete and love for the game. And I think you just brought up some really good points there that were very cool. But yeah, I mean, we appreciate so much that you came on and chatted with us. And sounds like you're crazy busy with 5 million athletes right now. So not easy to take time out of your day. But thank you for coming on and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. And thanks for doing this. I know getting more education out there to people who just are searching for it, is especially our women in the field. And thanks for being a resource. Thanks for doing this.
Of course.
Thank you for listening to the Women Leaders in Sports Medicine podcast. This podcast is for you to take a step closer to your dreams. Visit www.womenleadersinsportsmedicine.com to join our roundtables, learn about our mentorship programs, and to let us know what you want to hear. Have a great day, and remember, it's your time to lead.